I had been running marathons, in fact, a runner for 17 years, and then discovered that I had stage 4 breast cancer. And I kept saying, how can this be? It's impossible. And because I was running marathons, I thought I was fit. I never snack, Paul. It's so easy. Just take the meat and the oil out of your diet and increase the fruits and vegetables. I just happened to pick up a newspaper and I see this headline, breast implant illness. And it went through all the symptoms and, oh, it's check, 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 check. When I fell, I broke my back, the L4 in the lumbar region, and it was a compression fracture. It's so frustrating. I've been so independent, and now I am so dependent. Before, I had the good life. I really was on top of the world, the good life. And now I've had to make a good life.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I have an amazing guest tonight, a return guest. This is Dr. Ruth Heidrich. And I interviewed Dr. Ruth when I wrote my book, Raw Knowledge, many, many years ago. Welcome to the show, Dr. Ruth.
Well, thank you, Paul. I'm delighted to be here. It's been a long time since then, and your book is still going strong. And in the meantime, I've published 6 books, yeah, all trying to get people to quit killing themselves with their forks. And was in the documentary Forks Over Knives. I don't know if you've seen that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, more people have been convinced by that than I was. Amazed to find out how often people came up to me and they'd say, "Aren't you? You're the," and I say, "Forks Over Knives." They say, "Yeah, yeah."
Well,
And as recently as this year, it's amazing that people are still watching it.
yeah. Okay. So, Dr. Ruth, before we go any further, I want to get into your story tonight, but can you briefly, very briefly, because we'll get into the details, but can you briefly introduce yourself to the people that haven't seen you before?
Okay. Um, my name is Ruth Heidrich, and back in 1982, I had been running marathons, in fact, a runner for 17 years, and then discovered that I had stage 4 breast cancer. And I kept saying, how can this be? It's impossible. Well, they showed me the pathology report, and fortunately, this was the biggest transformation in my life. I met Dr. John McDougall, who had been doing research on breast cancer. And that's where my life turned around. I beat the breast cancer, stage 4, and no chemo, no radiation. There's some surgery to get rid of the tumor, which was over 5 centimeters big. And then I did the Ironman triathlon just 2 years later. And everybody was so amazed at that. And I kept saying, it's the food, it's the food. And so they kept saying, you got to write a book. So, yeah, and the brand new edition just came out, Paul, December 2024. Yeah. And oh, I got it. Let me show you. I really want people to read it. This is it right here.
The Race
Yeah.
for Life. Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll
Yeah.
put a link below for people can get that.
Okay.
And that's powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. So let me ask you. So you started, what year was that? You said
1982.
1982. That's when you were diagnosed with cancer?
Yeah, I was 47 years old. So do the math. I just turned 90, which to me, I'm thinking, how can that be? Where did all that time go? How many years was that? And so that's how long I have been on a plant-based diet. No cheating because it tastes so good. Nothing bad tempts me at all. I look at it and think, how could people eat that? So
Now,
I have to keep from getting judgmental. Okay,
now,
go ahead.
prior to that, were you just eating the standard American diet, not thinking about it? Okay.
Well, I'd had one course at the university, and they were teaching then that you had to get the protein from meat and you had to get your calcium from milk. And so the low fat was better. And so I took the skin off the chicken and I got powdered milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I thought Oh, that's good. And because I was running marathons, I thought I was fit. I was definitely,
Course,
yeah,
course.
yeah, not had no weight problems and no other. I did find out I had borderline hypertension, but it was just, and I never had my cholesterol tested until I met Dr. McDougall. And
Wow.
when we met, uh, he said I had just been diagnosed the week before, so it was right early in the beginning. And so he said, "Get your medical records. I want to talk to you." And so he looked at my blood work and said, "You are at as great a risk of dying of a heart attack as you are the breast cancer." And I said, "What?" He said, "Look at this cholesterol, 236. That is high." And so to cut to that chase, 3 weeks later, I had another blood test and it was down to 129. And
There you
he
go.
said, "I can tell you didn't cheat." Dr. McDougall, why would I cheat? My life is at stake.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
So when you say you're a doctor, what kind of doctor are you?
my dissertation was done on health management, all the research that had been done back up to 1992, which is when I got the doctorate. The research since then, I really had to convince my committee that here's the research and check it out. And so that's
So when
how
you say
that
health research, what does that mean
all
exactly?
the publishing that had been done at that point, mostly epidemiological studies showing that breast cancer, heart disease, osteoporosis are from the amount of meat and oil that each country was eating. And there's a straight line correlation. The higher the meat, the higher all these diseases. And down at the bottom, what countries that, like rural China and Africa, who never eat these foods had perfect, none of these diseases. Of
So,
course,
go ahead, go ahead.
well, I was going to say uh, that since then we've known how important fiber is, which you can only get from plants.
Sure.
So,
So your
yeah,
doctorate was in what? In studying health?
yeah, yeah, doing the research.
They
Yeah,
have a doctorate for that. What's that called? I don't. What's
health management.
health management? Okay, interesting. And at that time, now it's easy to get all this information, but when you were doing it back then, there was no internet, so it was a lot of
Yeah.
digging and
Oh,
trying to
you're
find all
right.
the info.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So, okay. So, you grew up eating standard American diet, but you were an athlete. And then you get diagnosed with this. You meet Dr. McDougall. You change your life. Now, for the last, what, 40 years or so, you've been on 50 years, maybe. You've been on are you on a vegan diet?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Vegan
absolutely.
diet.
Yeah.
Now, over the years, did you start taking supplements right away? Do you currently take supplements or what?
I did not take, not even B12, because back then, uh, Dr. McDougall said that you've got enough residual B12 from your previous diet. It's going to last you for years. And so my first supplement was the B12. And it was back in I guess, 1998, 99. So I had been vegan for a few years.
So
And then,
now with him saying that, was his understanding and is it your understanding that if somebody has high B12, depending how high it is, they can go for a certain amount of time and it'll help get them through that until it gets continuously gets lower?
yeah, that's what he said.
Okay.
I
So
think he had changed his tune a little bit with the new patients he counsels. He does say start B12. So,
regardless of where they're at, he told them that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So you start the B12 and you've been taking it all the way through since then?
yes.
And what else have you added over the years?
Oh, nothing.
Okay. Oh, so B12 is all you take.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Great. So tell us so you're 90 years old, which is amazing. So how has your overall health been all this time on a vegan diet?
Excellent. After my first book, A Race for Life, my publisher, which is Lantern Books, they're a vegan publisher. They're really have some great books there. And so the editor from New York City calls me one day and he said, I've been thinking, uh, you're 70 years old, you're still doing triathlons. We need you to write a book on senior fitness. And so, oh my gosh, I'm so busy right now. And I started stuttering and thinking, and he said, well, think about it and let me know. Well, my next run, the next morning, what was popping into my head? Well, I could say this, I could say that. And so I thought, I have got to help people integrate exercise into their program in addition to diet. They're both diet is king and exercise is queen. You got to have both.
100%. I have found that to be true as well. So,
Yeah.
let me ask you, what I have found, Dr. Ruth, is the importance of sleep. And so many
Uh-huh.
people neglect their sleep. They don't sleep enough, and healing takes place during sleep. And the diet we eat will determine how much sleep we actually need.
And the stages of sleep that you go through.
Yes. So
Yeah.
tell us what you've learned about sleep over the years and where you are currently with your sleep patterns.
Well, doing all the exercise, the training, I trained 7 days a week. I always jumped out of bed in the morning and went for a run, even though everybody else in my household, my husband and kids, were still asleep. But I wanted to get a run in before going to work. So from 5 to 6 a.m., I ran for an hour. And so that was I slept very well because I had exercised so hard. And even the night before an Ironman, whether it was in Kailua Kona, I've done Ironman in Japan, Ironman in New Zealand, you'd think I'd be so nervous I couldn't sleep. I was amazed that as soon as my head hit the pillow, I am out. And then I'd wake up naturally, never having an alarm, and again start all over again. So I knew I was getting good sleep. When I was talking about king and queen, I should have said, and I was thinking, sleep. That's the third pillar of health. So
Yeah.
important. And most people don't get enough.
They definitely don't. Now, so how many hours a night were you getting when you were waking up naturally without an alarm? And what do you get now?
About 7 hours then and now.
And now, okay. So what time do you normally go to sleep?
Well, ever since I fell um, and broke, should I tell that story how I
Yeah, we'll
broke?
get into that in a moment. I want to hear your daily day now of like give us an idea what time you go to sleep, what time you get up, and what your diet is like and your exercise routine, and then we'll get into your story of your fall.
Oh, okay. 9
Or
o'clock.
or or do you want to do the fall first? It's up to you.
No.
Okay, go ahead. So 9 o'clock,
Yeah. And I wake up at 4. And
nine
I
to
also,
four.
yeah, have an Apple Watch, one of these that sleeps with me. And I wake up in the morning and I check see what's been the phases of sleep that I went through. So
So
that's
the
how I,
Apple Watch monitors your phases of sleep.
yeah, yeah, it's
Okay.
amazing. Yeah.
So you go to sleep at 9, you get up at 4, then what's your daily day like?
Well, my caregivers come in at 7. So I've been up for 3 hours, and that's when the brain is supposed to be the sharpest. You've had it cleaned up, and so I've taken advantage of this. I do meditation. I have my favorite guided meditation, which keeps me from wandering all over the place when I try to do it without being guided. And I enjoy it. I look forward to it, and it's a great stress reliever, which this fall has caused an immense amount of stress. It still does because my fear, well, yeah, it's just scary that this might be permanent because uh, when I fell, I broke my back, the L4 in the lumbar region, and it was a compression fracture, which meant it pushed down on all those nerves there that control everything from digestion on down to the feet. And it's just been horrible. I can't walk without extreme amount of pain. And if I go more than 10 feet, there's so much pain, I'm afraid I'm going to collapse. So I have a wheelchair. So
So tell us about this fall. So what happened? Here you are doing your healthy lifestyle, living healthy,
yeah,
feeling great, exercising, you're still running, right?
yeah, yeah.
Everything was great. And then
Yeah.
when did the fall happen? How long ago?
And last May 21st.
Prior to that, no health issues. Are you
No.
monitoring your blood work up to this point?
Yeah.
So everything's looking good. Your
Yeah.
diet's mostly, I mean, it's all vegan, but how much raw
Yeah.
food? How much raw food is it?
Oh, it's 90% raw.
90% raw,
Yeah.
eating
Yeah.
vegan,
Yeah.
so then what happened with the fall? Tell us.
Well, I was on my way to see my dermatologist. I do 6 months checkups all over to see if I'm developing any kind of skin cancers. And she's on the second floor, and I'm walking up the stairs, and I get to the second to the top stair, and a woman walks by, and she says, "Oh, they fix the elevators." And I said, I always take the stairs. And then I started to grab for the rail to take that final step. The rail ended just below that. So I wasn't looking, I was talking to her, and I grabbed air and fell backwards. Oh my, it was just horrible, horrible. I was screaming bloody murder. She was screaming bloody murder. And then people in all the offices came running out to see what happened. And the security manager came in. He said, "I just called 911. They'll be here in a minute." And so here I am sitting at the bottom of the stairs, and eh, blood all over because it took all the skin off of both
I
arms.
mean, how big a flight of steps was it?
About 10 steps, and
Oh,
they had the
wow. Wow.
metal grid on
Wow.
each, so you don't
Wow.
slip. And so what happened, it just took all the skin off,
Ah,
and I had a deep cut in my ankle, and when the EMTs got there, one of them said, "Oh my God, I can see bone." And he said, "Oh, that's really deep." So anyway, from that time on, May 21st, my life just really took a dump. It has been horrible. I spent 4 months in the rehab center, which it helps, but it's just been horrible. I lost a lot of weight, even though I was still eating well. I ate exactly what I wanted when I was 4 months in. They called it the villas. It was one of the best places to rehab, and they told me I was really lucky to get in there because they really treat you well. I had physical therapy twice a week. I had occupational therapy. I had a, my own doctor who was there as a geriatrician. So I was then 89. So she knew how to treat. She thought I should be put on supplements, that I needed more calcium and I needed more, let's see, Prolia, a bone drug, because uh, the other thing that was happening is I lost so much weight. I was on a gurney for the first 8 hours, almost 24 hours actually, at the ER because they had so many other people ahead of me. They do triage, and because mine wasn't, like somebody coming in with a heart attack or just having a stroke, they took me later, and it was 20. In that 24 hours, you start losing bone and muscle right away, and sarcopenia, the loss of muscle and bone as you age, had started right away. So I lost 20 pounds. So I'm trying to regain it without adding a lot of fat in my diet.
well, up to that point, over the years, had you checked your bone density over the years?
Yes. And as I went through menopause, which, by the way, there was not a single hot flash, no other symptoms. I didn't even know exactly when menopause started. But at one of my checkups with my uh, PCP, she said, "I want you to do a bone density test because of your age at 55." And it did show up a little low, but then most vegans do, I think, because they don't have any excess fat, and you don't have the weight bearing isn't as effective in keeping bones strong. So it was low, and so she said I have osteoporosis and wanted me to go on drugs for that. But
That was at 55 years old.
yeah, yeah.
Now, when she told you that, did you speak to Dr. McGoogle about that?
Well, he was kind of not sure. what I should do, that maybe I should, because if I fell and fractured a hip, that would be worse. And the other complicating factor, questions I wished I'd known to ask a long time ago. Right after the breast cancer diagnosis, I uh, with the mastectomy, and they also said, well, we ought to do a simple mastectomy on the other side because you're at such high risk of breast cancer in that breast. Had I known then, and Dr. McDougall had told me that you don't need the other surgery, but it was too late. They had taken the other breast. And several years later, because I was still competing, I ran my first Ironman 2 years later, and flat chested. I mean, Paul, it was so embarrassing, to see a woman with no breasts. And so they offered me to have breast implants. And the questions I didn't ask is, how do we know they're safe? How do we know my immune system won't attack them? Because they said, oh, they're safe. Everybody gets them. They've had them since the 1960s. The tests were, I won't go into that. That's one of my books, Breast Implant Illness, A Living Nightmare. Anyway, I had them. And then 2019, I just happened to pick up a newspaper and I see this headline, Breast Implant Illness. And I thought, that's silly. We know these are safe. And so I thought, well, I'm curious. I'm going to see what they say about it. And it went through all the symptoms, and it's check, 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 check. And I was noticing I was losing my balance, I was losing my hair, I was having trouble sleeping, and what else? I called the reporter who wrote that, and she said, I wrote it because of my own experience. You got to get those out. I said, who is your surgeon? And I was in Canada at the time. So I called her surgeon and told him that I needed to get these implants out right away. Can you help me? And he said, yes, I agree. Get them out. Give me your MSN number. And that Canadians have their healthcare system, and they would have done it. But I said, I don't have one because I live in Hawaii. And he said, well, then I can't do it. I said, doctor, I'll pay whatever it costs. I'll pay you. And he said, it would invalidate my my malpractice insurance, malpractice. And so he said, you better get to the surgeon who put them in to get them out. So that's what led to my having possibly a balance problem. Even though I reached for that rail, I might have been able to not fall right away and grabbed it, and might have been able to prevent that. So you see how one thing compounds, gets to the next.
Absolutely. So
Yeah,
now, when the
yeah,
doctors told you that you gotta go on drugs for your osteoporosis,
yeah.
like, there's natural, supplements you could take. Were they talking about toxic drugs, or were they talking about the natural supplements?
Well, they're drugs that make billions of dollars for big pharma.
Sure.
uh, this geriatrician at the villa said, yes, there's a chance that you might have some side effects, but look at the risk. You've got balance problems. If you fall, you're going to break a hip, and 1 out of 4 people never recover. It
Yeah.
kills them, and the other 2 are disabled. So
So
she talked me in a weak moment. I said, okay, maybe I better do as she says. And so I called, well, I didn't call him. I contacted Doug Graham, and I know you know him,
yes.
and he was very helpful. He said, you've got to do weight bearing. You've got to do heavy lifting. He said, how many pounds can you deadlift? I said, Doug, I don't know. I didn't do any uh, deadlift, but he says, okay, start. And so I was doing the exercises, and then I have not had another DEXA scan since, and I really don't want one, because we know now that there's no perfect correlation between scores on your DEXA scan and your bone. Well, it's not just density; it is the content of the bone marrow, how hard the cortex is, and this they don't tell you that there are some blood tests for that, but they don't have any of these in here in Hawaii. There
Sure.
is a new one on the
Now,
main.
did you ever end up taking the medication that they told you to take for
Yeah,
it? And how
yeah,
long did you take that for?
in 6 months.
Okay,
And
and then you
I
spoke to
hope,
Doug, and when Doug told you to do the weight-bearing exercises, did you get
yeah.
off the medication?
Well, they with Prolia, it's a tiny injection under the skin, subcutaneous, and it lasts for 6 months.
Okay.
I just had the second one almost 6 months ago, and I've told the endocrinologist now that I don't want any more. And he said, "Well, you're going to lose whatever you gained." And I said, "The risk." My mother actually had the similar history of the breast cancer and the breast implants. And she had, I don't know, many people probably have never heard of an atypical femur fracture. The femur is the strongest bone in the body, the thigh bone, and it's dense and it holds most of the weight, a really strong bone. Well, she was in the kitchen. Now, she was 92 at the time. She was in the kitchen preparing a meal, and she just turned slightly and fell. I said, "Mom, you lost your balance?" And she said, "No, I didn't. I just, the bone broke and I fell." And so I talked to her orthopedic surgeon, and she said, "Yeah, it wasn't a hip fracture. It was this atypical bone femur fracture, which is we know now is caused by drugs." So that's the other problem that,
Wow.
by the way, men get osteoporosis too if they're eating the standard American diet and not getting any exercise. So the message applies to everybody.
Sure, but now there are supplements that, supposedly help with, building bone density, like you wanna or not only supplements, nutritional nutrients like vitamin K2, vitamin D, and things like
Yeah.
this.
I've
Uh,
had I've had my vitamin D tested and it's high enough. I mean, it's good. Yeah.
vitamin K, K2, where do you get that from?
The leafy greens. Yeah, K
Okay,
for potassium. And so that's high in the leafy greens.
sure. Okay, so tell us about your diet in general before the fall for the most of the time, and even, now I assume it hasn't changed much. Tell us about your diet. How often would you eat over the last 50 years as a vegan? How often did you eat throughout the day?
3 meals a day.
3 meals.
Yeah.
Mm,
Breakfast is a big bowl of lots and lots of fruit. Yeah. And this morning, uh, we had some, I shop at Costco, Instacart. I don't know if people have heard of it, but I go online and I select what I want. And they have a lot of organic fruits and vegetables. So I saw blackberries, fresh, organic. So I ordered those. And so the last 2 mornings I've had a cup full of blackberries. I can only get blueberries frozen and they're organic. So I have another cup of blueberries and then bilberries. You heard of bilberries?
now I
Yeah,
have
they're tiny little berries and get them from Amazon. Yeah, I'm not promoting anything. It's just what I read that berries are very, very good. So, and I love them. I can eat just a big bowl of just fruits. Here in Hawaii, of course, mango and and yeah, mango and papaya, and
It's 2:30.
yeah, excuse me, I have the timer on
that's
my
okay.
computer to hear 2:30
Yes.
because that's my stimulus to get up and stand and do some exercise. Yeah, because I sit all day and I lie down at night, all night. So I have to really work to try to get some exercise. But as I mentioned before, there's a lot of pain from those compressed nerves that
Uh,
limits what I can do.
yeah.
So,
And so, I mean, so then so after you have your berries and then you have your lunch meal, what do you have for lunch?
well, the main feature is a big long carrot and lots of celery, and I have them chopped up. And then I sometimes have tofu with it. And what else do I add? Goji berries at lunch. And I don't know. I'm looking to the bowl because I had lunch not too long ago, and my caregiver gets here at 3, and that's when she cleans up after my lunch, and then we have dinner. So the bowl of what I had is about that much food in the bowl, and so I'm full. I never snack. I'll never get snack because when I eat these 3 meals, I am satisfied. I know that when at the end of the meal that my brain and my gut says, yeah, we got what we need. And so for supper, I do, having read about the blue zones, I'm sure you're familiar with them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, the Okinawan diet. And we've got a lot of Okinawans here in Hawaii. So purple sweet potatoes are big. So that's my, I shouldn't say guilty pleasure. It's a healthy food. It's just not raw. I tried eating them raw, but no, that doesn't work. So yeah, so
sure.
I've got some organic purple sweet potatoes, and that's in my supper, along with a green smoothie with I don't know how many different types of greens. It's always kale, Swiss chard, cilantro, and Swiss chard, as I say, Swiss chard. Anyway, Caldwell Esselstyn, he talks about all the greens and he lists, he goes down. You can't keep, arugula, and there's so many different leafy greens, and people need to eat a lot of leafy greens. And I don't cook them or steam them. I eat them raw. Oh, broccoli too. Yeah, so
What time do you normally eat your dinner?
well, because the caregivers, they're here from 3 to 7, so they also have to shower me. I can't even do that by myself. It's so frustrating. I've been so independent, and now I am so dependent on what these wonderful caregivers have to do for me. So we shower me first, and then I have supper between 4 and 5. So I have a good 3 hours or more after supper. A big supper, by the way. I'm full, and
Sure.
before going to
And
sleep.
and before this accident, did you usually eat your last meal between 4 and 5?
Yes, more closer to 5 and 6 because, yeah, I kept
Sure.
putting it off. But yeah, early.
Now, what's their prognosis for your situation? Do they say you'll heal as time goes on, or are they saying you need surgery? What are they saying?
They said we can do surgery and immediately put screws and a rod in your back, but the surgery is almost as bad at healing as your fracture is. So, and he said, with your osteoporosis, uh, we're not sure that I would give you a good prognosis there because of the bones. He showed me the screw that they use. They're this big, like
Wow.
2-inch screws, and the rod. Oh, and I thought, I don't want that. And so they said, well, the L4 is one of the worst fractures you can have, and it can take months, if not years, to heal. So I am hoping I gradually am making some progress, but it's frustrating. I call it glacial. You know how
Sure.
slow glacial is, and that's how slow the improvement is. And I tell my care, this is going to be permanent. No, no, it's not. You're going to keep working it and improving it. So
Well, Dr. Ruth, you're 90 years old. You've been eating a raw diet for a long time, or a vegan diet for a long time,
yeah,
and
40,
you, you
44 years.
you've been through a lot. What would your advice be now to your younger self? Let's say before your breast cancer diagnosis and even after. What would you, knowing what you know now, tell yourself back then?
That the diet, that animal foods, do the research and think about there. I didn't really know any vegetarians or vegan. In fact, back then, people couldn't even pronounce it. In 1980, they all said vegus or vegus or whatever. And so uh, it was hard to do at first because um, I just didn't know exactly what I was doing, didn't know anybody. I didn't even know anybody who had breast cancer, which, by the way, at that time was 1 in 13 women got breast
Um,
cancer. Do you know what it is now?
1 and 2 or 1 and 3?
No, 7 or 8.
Wow,
70. Just
170.
wait, it's gonna be 1 and 2 because each one of my caregivers are diabetic or pre-diabetic. Yeah, because they don't know. And it's amazing, Paul, how many are already changing their diets because they want to lose weight and they try different diets and it doesn't work. But I said, you don't need to diet. You just need to get the meat out and increase the fruits and vegetables. And it's delicious. Well, they prepare my meals, so they know exactly what I eat. And so they are emulating what I'm doing, which really is gratifying that at least still spreading the word.
Yes. Now let me ask you, do you have any spiritual focus in your life?
Well, it's the higher power, definitely. I have thought about reaching out to the church, and I thought, well, I have to go anywhere, being wheelchair bound. Transportation is a major issue. I have to have a special service, ABC Transport. They have a special van and they can wheel a wheelchair right into the back and tap, take it down. Nail it down, figuratively speaking, and then take it off and then wheel me to wherever I go. And so I had a few doctor's appointments and another dermatology and dental work. And so all of those things. And so my life is pretty full. In fact, I had a thought the other day. You've probably heard about the good life and a good life. And I thought, before I had the good life. I really was on top of the world, the good life. And now I've had to make a good life by my world getting so small, mostly right here in this room. And I keep, you see my trophies in the background. Yeah, almost 1,000 of them. And they remind me of what I could do maybe someday if I can get back to it. Because at 90, I would win first place in any. Well, yeah, I can imagine not winning if I could just do it. So
Sure,
that's my
sure.
goal is to try to get well enough to. Oh, they even have some wheelchair races. There's an incident in one of my books that the new one that just got published is I was doing trampoline is another sport exercise, and it was a Saturday night, and the next morning I had a 10K race, and I was the race director, so I had to be there. And so I was doing a high jump. You point your toes and you go down, and all of a sudden, when I hit, you heard a crack that you could hear throughout the gym. And Dr. Harris said, "Oh, you broke your navicular, which is the bone." They went to the ER. They put me in a cast. And the next morning, uh, because I was the race director, they were depending on me. I didn't have time to tell anybody I couldn't come. So I went, and we had the wheelchair division. A guy who has two wheelchairs. He has his conventional one, and he has a lightweight racing wheelchair. So after I fired the gun, and they start, everybody was just about to ready to take, or hadn't quite fired the gun yet. I said, "Kim, um, can I use your regular wheelchair?" I said, "I want to race." He said, "What?" Yeah, he said, "Sure, okay." So I fired the gun, everybody takes off, and here I go in the wheelchair
Well,
trying to go fast, and it soon became last place. I hit the turnaround, and there are police escorts there, to control traffic. And so my hands were getting sore and blisters, but I made it. And of course, guess what? Who got a first place in female division? So that's one of my
now,
trophies.
what year was that?
1989, I think. Yeah,
So
about
this
then.
was, so you broke your, what bone was it that you broke?
Navicular in the foot.
And so that was in 1989. So that was about 10 years after you started the vegan diet.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, when you did that, did they look at your osteoporosis or any bone
No,
density at that
no,
time?
no. When you put all the weight and inertia from the trampoline you're hitting it fast. And Dr. Harris said that would break anybody's bone. So no, they weren't worried then.
But it wasn't. I mean, a lot of people are doing trampolines and
Yeah.
not breaking
Well,
bones.
they know I was not trained really.
Sure.
Yeah, it was a new sport for me. It was kind of fun, but I'd only done it a couple of times before.
Now, had
So
you gotten your bone density ever checked being an athlete and a long distance runner prior to going vegan and getting
yeah,
diagnosed? Did you
yep,
used to check your bone density at that time?
yeah. In fact, Brenda Davis, in one of her books, the renowned
Yes.
uh, uh, diet, yeah, RDM, and I'm in her book because in my 60s I was increasing my bone density, and that was because of all my exercise and my good diet. So
Oh,
that
no, I'm
reached.
talking about prior to you changing your diet. When you're eating the standard American diet and prior
Oh
to you getting diagnosed with breast cancer, did you ever get your bone density checked at?
no, because I was 47 when I was diagnosed. You don't do bone densities younger than 47 normally.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Wow, wow.
yeah.
So, what would your advice or your information be to people that are listening right now to this?
You've got to do it. Just do it. Not someday, because someday is today or tomorrow. It's not a day of the week. You got to do it now. And it's easy once you do it and you realize how good the food tastes. And as I said, it's so easy. Just take the meat and the oil out of your diet and increase the fruits and vegetables. If you only had one serving of each, have two servings of that. So, and the more raw, the better, the healthier. So that's what I tell people. You can do it. Just do it and then see how good you feel. You'd never go back.
Yeah. Well, everybody take this advice and take every moment. Don't take it for granted because you never know what's going to happen.
Oh, that's so true. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
I definitely you want to try to do everything you can, and you're doing from a health standpoint everything. But
yeah,
it seems like reaching out to that church and maybe having them pray for your healing might be a great path because God could do things that man don't understand how, right? So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and
yeah, definitely.
wow. Wow. So, doing this long and continuing growing, what's your future plans that you have? Do you have any future goals or a plan? Obviously, to heal from this, but do you
Yeah.
have any other things that you want to get done?
Well, I keep thinking of another book, different subjects, and mostly the ones I really wanted to write, lifelong running, and then because I chuckle when people call me Dr. Ruth, and I encourage it because it's the story behind it. Uh, Dr. Ruth Westheimer, the sex therapist, and I get emails from people confusing me with the other Dr. Ruth. So when a man emails me and said, "Dr. Ruth, can you help me?" and I said, "I think you got the other Ruth in mind, but I think I can help you. If
That's
you've got
great.
erectile dysfunction, change your diet. That will do it." And after this happened enough times, I thought, there's a market out there that and they have all these drugs now, the Viagra and Cialis. I said, you don't need drugs. You just need to open that tiny little artery there so it can do its job. And that will solve your problems. So that was why I wrote another book, Sex Fitness in 10 Easy Steps.
Wow. Wow. Well, are
Yeah,
all your books on your website?
yes, they're on my
Okay.
website, and the 3 of them are Amazon. I don't know how you got on Amazon. I didn't do it myself. I just was, doing some search or something. I came across a Race for Life. Yeah.
Well, I'm going
Oh,
to put your website below. What is your website?
ruthheidrich.com.
All right,
Yeah.
everybody, I'm going to put the link to that in the description below. Is that the best way for people to contact you?
Yes, it's the only way, because part of that on the website is Ask Dr. Ruth, and you click on that and you've got me. and I answer all my emails, and as quickly as possible, because I know what it's like to send an email to somebody and wait and wait and wait, and so that's a high priority.
Well,
I
I
answer.
appreciate you answering mine, and I thank you for that.
Well, yeah, but I hated to put you off, but I just didn't feel like I could generate any enthusiasm because I was depressed and sad and thinking really negative thinking. It's going to be disability. And until recently, I got that idea of a good life and the good life. And I have a good life now. There's no question. So we can deal with whatever comes down the pike. That's my best advice. Just deal with it. We all need resilience, and that you can develop resilience. So that's, yeah, my advice.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and everybody, please go to Dr. Ruth's website and check out her books. Just a world of knowledge and personal experience, and also keep Dr. Ruth in your prayers as well.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for taking the time to join us, and just stay strong, and we pray for your healing, and good for you that you're just sticking to what you've known to work over the years, and
Yeah.
keep it up, okay?
Okay, will do.
All right,
Thank you.
everybody, put your comments or questions below. This is wonderful, Dr. Ruth. There's so much knowledge, and she has so many interviews on YouTube with other
Yeah.
people. I encourage you to do a search with her name on YouTube and see all her great videos from over the years. Until then, everybody, have a great day and keep growing and have a great raw life.
Age is wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show.